So, but unfortunately this acts as a constricting agent whenever there is a synovitis there over the tendon. If at all there is a synovitis, this acts as a constricting agent, and if at all it so happens because of repeated trauma, this sheath, we usually call it as A1 pulley here, right? If this A1 pulley gets fibrosed or if it gets stenosed, what happens? This tendon can't move in and out, or it so happens at times if that there is a tendinitis and there is a nodule in this tendon, now this is not allowing the tendon to move freely within this sheath. That is why it is called as stenosing tenosynovitis. Once this is happening, it gets locked. Initially there will be some crepitus and pain over the A1 pulley level at the level of metacarpophalangeal joint, right? But over a period of time, now once you flex the finger, it goes that way and it will not come out. You have to use your force to do this. But if it comes out, it comes with a snap, as if you have left the trigger, right? It gives some resistance. Once it gives way, it just gives way, just like a trigger. Hence it is called as trigger finger, trigger of a gun. Got it? So it gives way with a snap, right? So what is the best modality of treatment? Again, rest, right? Ice, and sometimes you may have to use even hot fomentation, hot packs to increase the blood flow to that level, so that what are all the pain causing substances are washed out. Okay. There are advocators of ice on one side, advocators of heat on other side. If you go to Delhi, already it is too cold, let us apply heat. If you go to some other place where it is too hot, they say it is already too hot, why should you apply heat, let us apply ice. So there is always a controversy of that sort, right? Ice, when you apply in the acute phases, suppose you have an acute injury, once there is a blood loss going on, you apply ice, there will be vasoconstriction. At the time of vasoconstriction you will have pain, but at a later time you have vasodilatation and revert back to the normalcy, and at that point of time you will have nice pain relief with ice. With heat, what happens is you have a vasodilatation, right? Because of vasodilatation, all the pain causing substances are washed out and you have good pain relief. That is a mechanism how heat and ice works, right? So there are people who advocate again steroid injection into the sheath, not into the tendon, right? If you miss out, you inject into the tendon, ultimately end up in the tendon loss. So the best modality is again go there, simple under local anesthesia you can release that sheath, and sometimes you may have to release take out some piece of the tendon sheath also, which is thickened. The next one another pathology usually we see in orthopedics is ganglion cyst. It is also called as Bible cyst. This ganglion cyst, they are fluid filled cystic cavities, usually they arise from joint surfaces. There are so many pathologies attributed to it. The most commonly accepted pathology is a cystic degeneration of the synovium, including capsule. One another pathogenesis that has been accepted is there is a rent in the capsule, right? And hence there is a cystic ectasia. This fluid goes there and can't come out, and hence ends up in a ectasia. There are various pathologies advocated for the cyst. But usually this cyst is multiloculated and contains lot of gelatinous jelly like substance, right, akin to same like the synovial fluid, but it is more thicker and more viscous than the synovial fluid. So they said it is a degenerative process or pathology that is going on in the tissues which are surrounding the joint, right. So hence there are so many things described for it, but ultimately what it is a cystic degeneration of the synovium with a capsule over it, and the capsule is also degenerated to a certain extent, become weak, and then it is encasing or ensheathing the cystic degenerated or the fluid containing sac, the gelatinous material containing sac. It is a ganglion cyst. Usually it is seen in the joints, especially at the wrist joint. It can be seen at any other joint level also. Most often either it is seen on the dorsum of the wrist and in the scapholunate interval, or at the radioscaphoid interval on the volar aspect of the wrist joint. It is seen as the swelling. In the earlier days, once this swelling is there, which is a cystic swelling which is tense, what they used to do is they used to hit with the Bible, hence it is called as Bible cyst. Take a big book or Gray's Anatomy, throw onto the swelling. It breaks inside. Once it is broken, it is open now. Once it is open, this fluid is absorbed, same like hydrocele surgery, deroofing it, open it. It is open to the lymphatics. This whatever the fluid collection that is there, it is open to be absorbed by all the lymphatics, and hence that is a treatment. Now it is too awkward for us to hit with a book, So what some people have done is they have gone in, aspirated it with white bore needle and again injected steroid so that it doesn't come back, but most often it recurs if you do that way. The best accepted modality is complete excision. If you can't do the complete excision, what at least you can do is de-roof it. De-roof it, remove the whatever the degenerated tissue is there, completely remove it, and whatever the sac that is there, de-roof it and open it to the lymphatics of the dermis, skin. So it so happens it will not come back. Even after doing the best surgery, it will recur. That is the problem with it, right? That is all about ganglion cysts. Be careful here. Volar ganglion cysts at the wrist are extremely dangerous. Once while operating, you can injure radial artery. It is very close to the radial artery. Should not injure it, right? Next is Dupuytren's contracture. What is Dupuytren's contracture? It is a painless, progressive, proliferative connective disorder involving the palmar aponeurosis. Here plantar fascia you have seen, same like plantar fascia you have palmar aponeurosis. They say palmar aponeurosis is a continuation of palmaris longus tendon. Plantar aponeurosis is a continuation of tendaglis. Now it is Dupuytren's contracture is one condition wherein there is a progressive proliferative connective tissue problem. Here the connective tissue which is making the palmar aponeurosis is going into a angiofibroblastic phase initially, later on ending up in a progressive proliferation of this connective tissue, ending up in nodules, later on tight fibrosing, stenosing or tight cords which pull the metacarpophalangeal joint into flexion. See this, once there is an angiofibroblastic proliferation of this tissue, it shrinks, it contracts. Once it is contracting, what will happen? What will happen? It pinches and it brings the joints into a phase of contraction, and they will not go back because it is a fibrous strong connective tissue which has got into a phase of contracture, right? Hence it is called as Dupuytren's contracture. Right? There is one thing called Dupuytren's diathesis. I'll just let you know. The basic pathology is conversion of one collagen into other collagen, and most often ring finger and little fingers are affected. Initially there will be a nodule, later on there is a tight cord, and ultimately ends up in grade 3 wherein there is a contraction of the finger at the level of metacarpophalangeal joint. It is a very strong cord-like structure like this, and there are related conditions. The same proliferative fibromatosis can occur at other places also. If it occurs in the penis, it is called Peyronie's disease, and if it occurs in the plantar fascia, it is called Ledderhose disease. If it occurs at the knuckles, it is called as Garrod-Spads, right? So when the patient comes to you, if you ask the patient to put their hand on the table, they can't put it because it's a contracture like this. It's palm top test. It is called as palm top test. Patient can't put their hand straight because of the contracture. Usually people will be above 40 years of age with a gross positive family history, and men are more affected than females. Usually this can be seen in HIV patients, patients of epilepsy treated with phenytoin, patients with cirrhosis of liver, right? And patients with diabetes and alcoholism and repeated trauma. Suppose one fellow is repeatedly using drilling machine to drill holes in the rocks and then blast them. So those are the people whom we see this Dupuytren's contracture. If you have family history, gone, right? And what do? The treatment is, in the earlier days they used to do this radiotherapy. Put it in, this is the hand, can you see it? This is the radiotherapy protocol, right? But now we are not doing that radiotherapy. The best method is surgery. What is the surgery that you have to do? You have to, now there is a thickened fascia out there, you have to remove the fascia. It is called as fasciectomy. So it is called as partial selective fasciectomy is the gold standard treatment for Dupuytren's contracture. Just remember this thing. Sometimes it so happens you may have to remove the fascia along with the skin. It is called as dermofasciectomy, right? This is called as Skoog's selective partial fasciectomy is one most important surgery you need to remember. Selective partial fasciectomy. Second is dermofasciectomy. That means you remove the skin as well as the fascia, and once you remove the skin, what will you do? You have to graft it, right? There are various other modalities also. There are minimally invasive surgeries that have come in. It is called as percutaneous needle fasciotomy. Unfortunately, this is not successful all the time. Sometimes they do segmental fasciectomy, right? Sometimes they just remove one chunk of fascia from here and they go there and remove chunk of fascia there. Once you have removed it, it becomes lax. You just stretch it and put a splint like this. Usually you get correction. Sometimes this space of removal, once you have removed one segment of fascia, that space will be filled with cellulose membrane. Sometimes they remove this place, or they give multiple cuts and do fasciectomy and then put lipografting. You do liposuction there and put that lipograft there, so that again it doesn't recur. Right? It's called as extensive percutaneous aponeurotomy. Multiple cuts will be given and subcutaneously you inject this fat. That's it. So sometimes there are reports saying that if you inject collagenase extracted from Clostridium histolyticum, you inject collagenase. What is happening? It is a collagen tissue that is causing this contracture. If you inject collagenase, all that collagen is lysed, and hence you end up in this thing. But slowly you have to be extending and you have to be careful that you slowly do this extension portion by putting serial casting. Right? That is all about Dupuytren's contracture.